Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rumors of Heresy. My name is Zareth, and today we've got a fight with my Gladius Ultramarine list against a Firestorm Salamanders list. Now, it's Salamanders for some reason, despite the fact my opponent does not have any of the Salamanders characters, but he did label it as Salamander, so just to make sure you understand that. And before we begin, guys, just a reminder to hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, comment if you can. Help us mount the algorithm, please. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. It would mean the world to me. It already has meant the world to me. A lot of people watching these videos, and it is so appreciated, guys. Thank you guys so much. So let's get moving in on this, folks. This is the first game of a Rogue Trader tournament in Laramie, Wyoming. I live in Denver. It's about a 2-hour drive, but this is where I got my master's degree. I'm very familiar. This is where I met my wife, actually. So I'm very familiar with Laramie. And if you're not familiar with driving in Wyoming or anything about Wyoming, I snapped this as I was driving, so that was safe of me. Okay, let me turn off my face for just a sec. You can see the whole thing. Wow, isn't that cool? It's lovely. Actually, Wyoming is quite lovely. It's kind of an acquired taste, though, to be honest. So we get there, and man, I really love the venue. Actually, they just rent the Civic Center in Laramie, and that's awesome. It's really nice. There's a ton of space, tons of space, and there's 16 people at this tournament, so all we need are 8 tables, and that they're very spaced out. It's such a luxury that most big tournaments, even RTTs, honestly, have all of the tables just smashed together, and you can't even get to the end of them. It's very challenging to play in those conditions, so this is really nice. And then when we're done, there's I don't really know what the use case for this was, but there's a bunch of fun kids toys. So once we're done with our adult toys, we can go play with the kid toys if we want. Of course, we don't want to, but I wanted to, technically, in theory. So at the last minute, okay, so here's my army. This is the same list that I brought to LVO that I got a pretty good result at LVO with, but through some strange circumstances, I forgot to bring my jump pack intercessors. So huge shout out to Ryan in Laramie for going to his house and grabbing some Space Wolf jump pack intercessors. So you can see them on the far left. They're lovely, actually, very well painted, very nice. So we've got the Ultramarines, and we've got Salamanders, and we've got Space Wolves all represented here. Let me show you my list here. Oh, one second. All right, here it is. So it's basically the Ultramarines High Command. We've got Roboute, Marneus, and Uriel. Uriel is hanging out with company heroes, and he's handing out Deep Strike to the Stern Guard. The jump pack intercessors are just deep striking. Usually, Marneus is with the company heroes, making that unit extremely tough to kill. Couple predators, couple ballistic dreads. I mean, really, other than Roboute, there's nothing in this army that's just so super high value. I mean, Marneus does cost quite a few points, but he also costs quite a bit of effort for my opponents to clear him as a squad, and he's got a lot of utility. So I mean, the idea is just to be adaptable and responsive and be able to, whatever my opponents do, hopefully we can find a way to outdo it. We've got some good shooting, though that's not the primary focus on the list. I mean, nothing is. Melee is also not the prime focus, but there should be something to hopefully be able to deal with most stuff out there for what it's worth. I mean, it's still there's still a lot to deal with out there. There's a lot of scary lists. This tournament had a lot of really good players. So my opponent had a Firestorm list, and you guys know that from the Firestorm content that I've made, that he's taking a lot of things that I typically don't. It's a very different list, and that's fine, totally fine. I was actually, when I looked at the list of people who I wanted to play, or who I could potentially be playing against at this 16-person RTT, this is the person I wanted to play, because I wanted to see how someone else is running Firestorm, someone else's take on it. And so I was really excited when we got paired with this with this person, and they're taking 3 squads of plasma inceptors, which is super interesting. I just recently tested a Firestorm list with inceptors, and I didn't have good results, but I was really interested to see how he did. He's got a Judiciar with Blade Guard. He's got aggressors with a Gravis Captain and the Adamantium Mantle to make him very, very challenging to kill. He's got a Tech Marine, of Gladiator Lancer, Ballistus Dread, Eradicators, like just tons of 3 wound bodies, which I thought was really interesting. Some scout. I mean, he's just fitting a lot into his list. He doesn't have that many vehicles, but that's fine. I was very interested to see how this list is run. Now, folks, if you want to see my list, you can't really look at my opponent's list unless you go to the the Best Coast Pairings list, and if you have a subscription with them, then you can look at my opponent's list in detail. If you want to look at my list in detail, it'll be in the video description, so go check that out if you would like. Let's get to the actual battle report itself, shall we? All right, here we are, folks. So he won the role to, well, I forget who placed first, but let me show you guys our deployments here. He won the role to, he got to go second, unfortunately. So we got some scouts here. We've got some let's see, those are Infernus Marines. There's a Ballistus, and then so right here we've got the Blade Guard and the Judiciar are right here. We've got the let's see, I think these are Infernus Marines, I believe, or maybe these are the oh, these are the Eradicators, that's right. So Eradicators are right next to the Judiciar and company, and then a little bit farther up we've got more Infernus Marines, we've got some aggressors and some scouts, Tech Marine, Gladiator Lancer. I think these are Intercessors. So like I said, he's got a lot of stuff. And then in Deep Strike, my opponent has the he has 5 jump pack Intercessors, and all 6 of his sorry, all 9 of his Inceptors deep striking. So a lot of stuff. This is actually after I moved in my first turn, but you can see we got Marneus down here with some scouts just hanging out here, just trying to threaten this objective a little bit. We've got the Predator and Ballistus, and in reserves we've got the we've got 1 Ballistus Dread, we've got Sternguard Deep Striking, and we've got the Jump Pack Intercessors. The Predator up top here was actually, he was, oh man, is this arrow supposed to be this enormous? Probably. He was actually just a little bit right here. Eventually he took some shots at this Lancer. So this is, of course, like I said, after I started moving, or after I had finished my movement. You can see the scouts here just want to do their uppy downy. I guess we should probably get this arrow a little bit bigger. So the scouts want to do uppy downy, so they're just kind of back here so that they can eventually just start screening out. These scouts are threatening this objective, or their scouts. And the idea here, the captain is within, within distance to mess with this objective if I want, but because this is Scorched Earth, I don't care about my primary on the first few turns as much. We really just want to get some decent board position and get into a place where we know that our opponents, where we can kind of face off against our opponents. And otherwise, like I tend to play a pretty good secondary game at this point, and so we kind of want to just play secondaries as much as possible and take what the game gives us. If my opponent wants to just bunker down and hang out in ruins, like, I tend to find some ways to be able to impact the game, to in positive ways for myself. Now I do have to be careful though, because I have first turn instead of second turn, so he can go onto an objective and burn it at the last minute, so I do need to be a little more aggressive in that regard. But for the most part, we're just going to kind of just take what is given to us. We got Uriel here with the company heroes. We've got Guilliman. It's kind of weird to have Marneus off on his own, but we really do need to threaten the opponent objective. And of course, one of the things that you have to keep in mind as well is we do have Stern Guard and Jump Pack Intercessors ready to deep strike in and kind of overload one of the flanks here. So just trying to be adaptable and see what happens. Now, in my own first turn, I did in fact, so I put I put this tank into I put him into the Devastator Doctrine, and then I used, is it called like Storm of Fire, something like that, it's another stratagem that lets him, if he's in Devastator Doctrine, not only does he ignore cover, but he's +1 AP. And so my opponent had placed he placed his tank here, his Gladiator, right here on the edge. I think just because, I mean, this whole flank on both sides, honestly, that you got to look out for your vehicles, because it's just a straight shot all the way down. And so he had his Gladiator there. I was like, all right, well, let's see what we can do, because if you put all the moment on the guy, then it's +1 to wound. And so las cannons are wounding on 2s, and then they can reroll, or they reroll the hit, they wound on 2s, and then they ignore cover, and they ignore his armor, unless he does Armor of Contempt. So he did use Armor of Contempt. He didn't roll any 6s, however, so both of my las cannons hit, wounded, I think that just those 2 alone. Oh, maybe the Hunter Killer Missile finished him off, but I did manage to kill his Lancer on turn 1, which was a pretty big win for me, I think. I mean, I still had my autocannon to shoot, though I don't know that would have killed it. One way or another, though, just being able to get those las cannons to AP4 ignores cover, pretty nice. So that's basically what happened there. And at the end of the turn, so he just moved up a little bit, as you'll see in just a moment. So let's see, I got containment for 6 with what I think the Combi Lieutenant and some scouts, or maybe even Marneus, I'm not sure. I got overwhelmed, so I got marked for death, and so I got rid of marked for death, and of course, immediately after that, I rolled Overwhelming Force, which is a terrible one to get on turn 1. So I decided to keep Overwhelming Force just to see if my opponent would get onto objectives. And if he didn't get onto objectives, this is me kind of just trying to mess with him a little bit, if possible, of like, well, if you get on objectives, I'll be able to score the secondary. And if you don't get on objectives, then we'll just, we'll have a good time staring at each other, and he can't score primary. He also got marked for death. He decided to keep it in and threw it away. And then he had no targets to actually shoot or kill any of my guys. I guess I had some scouts that he tried to kill, but he didn't quite manage to do that. Didn't quite manage to kill him. So he didn't score anything on turn 1. And yeah, so on turn 2, let's see. So he had some scouts that were here. The scouts did try to kill my scouts, and he didn't end up doing that well. I mean, he killed 1.5 scouts, and that's about what you expect. Scout on scout action is not contrary to the popular belief. Scouts on scouts it's just not that good. I don't think he had the close combat weapons on his scouts, so my scouts were fine. I think maybe I put Armor of Contempt on him. I don't really remember, but one way or another, he didn't really end up getting much damage on him. In return, you can see we have the heavy bolter, and I think Marneus was also his scouts were towed into this objective down here, or onto the terrain down here. So Marneus was able to shoot. You can see I put all the guys who can who can shoot right here on the corner so that they can actually tow in and see his scouts. So it's essentially what we did. We just shot the scouts, killed them. These scouts got onto the objective just to force my opponent to mess with them. And now I'm trying to remember, did he actually get onto this objective? Because that would have given me overwhelming force. So I guess we'll see what the final score was. And then over here, I got the Combi Lieutenant onto the objective, and just want to force my opponent to get onto this objective and make something happen if at all possible. You can see the scouts over here, just kind of, they did the uppy downy thing. These are the scouts that were originally back here in the middle. They're just going here. Remember, he's got 6-inch deep strike with his inceptors, so we're really trying to shut that down in the back zone. We really don't want him floating around and getting easy shots. And honestly, he hasn't given me much. I killed those scouts over here. And that's basically is that it? I think that's all I killed. Otherwise, we're all just he did uppy downy for his own scouts, you can see, and he's just kind of loaded his 2 little loading zones here full of guys. So he's got the aggressors up here with some Infernus, and then the Erads and Blade Guard are right here too. His Ballistas, he's being pretty cautious. Yeah, so we've killed the Lancer, we killed some scouts, and now we're just hanging out, waiting, trying to force him onto these objectives though, so that we can make some action, get some action. Because if we can't force him onto objectives, there's going to be some issues. I mean, I guess his Ballistas could get here and try to shoot the scouts, but it's kind of risky if the Ballistas kind of just epic fails. I could put with cover and putting Armor of Contempt on him, for instance. They turn into something that's a little bit challenging to kill unless you use, maybe the Ballistas kills him, and maybe it just really, really doesn't. So just trying to force him into not being on, he can't support all of these objectives, or if he can, if he tries to, it's kind of going to spread him a little bit thin. And so this is what we're trying to do, is just exert pressure, just subtle pressure. If he wants to get on this objective, I don't want to give him any wiggle room to kind of try to take this objective. I'd rather these guys in the middle just stay there, or maybe try to support one of these other objectives, weakening the middle so that I could jump here. I'd rather just, if I had my preferences, I would just leave him off of this objective. Neither of us get on this objective. I don't use Roboute. I don't use the company heroes. I don't use any of them. We just have a stalemate in the middle, and all the things are resolved on the flanks. That's what I would prefer, honestly, because I got a lot of good support. Remember, we still have jump pack intercessors that are going to try to rapid ingress next turn, because that's their whole job. Is rapid ingress turn 2 is usually what they want to do. Sometimes turn 3, usually turn 2, and then Stern Guard show up on turn 3 and try to delete things. And that's really usually the go turn. So right now, let's try to get our opponent out of into a bad position on the board, and then we can move forward. I mean, that's essentially it. So okay, at the end of his turn, he finally decided to go. So he moved his aggressors up. He moved so his aggressors are on this objective here. Let's actually zoom in a little bit. So sorry for the blur. I mean, the phone's not intended to be incredibly good at it, but so he got his aggressors here. He was gonna try to kill the Combi Lieutenant, but of course the Combi Lieutenant wised up to his vile scheme and just jumped into the building. Of course, he's not on the top level. He's on the bottom, but he's the one with he's the one with his the moment. He also did deep strike his jump intercessors just to support this objective here, and otherwise he didn't really do too much. The one thing that I thought was interesting was he popped his Blade Guard out. Now there are these gaps in the ruins, and we clarified before the game just to make sure we understood. The gaps in the ruins are like kind of unintentional in some ways. This is a solid wall of ruin. Like there's not a gap here. There's not like you can't like see into it or anything like that. It's an actual just solid ruin. It's just for whatever reason the terrain didn't quite stretch that far or something. I don't know exactly how or what or why things things are the way they are, but one way or another he poked his blade guard out to touch this middle objective, which I mean, I don't, no shade on my opponent, I think that's a little bit of a mistake, honestly, because that lets me have access to his blade guard, and his blade guard are just a little, I mean, blade guard can be squishy if you shoot at them. You know, they can be very resilient if you roll all your invuln saves, but you can do some good damage. And I think the biggest thing was he put his Judiciar out, which if you put your Judiciar out, then that means you can't allocate wounds to him, which means you have access to shoot that squad until that squad is all the way dead. So putting the Judiciar here, so even if he removes these 3 blade guard, he's got 3 more in the building. I can still shoot his Judiciar, and he has to allocate them to the guys in the building. So, like, you gotta watch where you're putting your guys. In response, as I said, we're going to rapid ingress the jump pack intercessors, and because he had poked his blade guard out here, and he had some aggressors here, what I decided to do was, you know, and sometimes you just have to feel the situation out after everything's resolved, but the jump pack intercessors were going to be able to jump over here and support to kill the aggressors, or they could jump over here and support to kill the blade guard. Just depended. Now on the bottom side of the table here, we have the scouts who are dead now. They died. They're dead. They're gone. Goodbye, scouts, because they got burninated by these Infernus. And if I remember correctly, my opponent rolled some ungodly number, like 5 Infernus are supposed to get something like, what, 17 hits, something like that, which is fine. I think he ended up with like 28 or something hits with just 5 of them, and those poor scouts just got absolutely roasted. But it's nice because now my opponent does have some guys back here. I think these are scouts. He did the up and downy thing with the scouts again. He did a really good job of blocking me out as well, of screening. So, and actually all my opponents this tournament did an excellent job of that. So congratulations, kudos to them. That's awesome. But he doesn't. There's this thing where his blade guard are out, his aggressors are out, and his, like, over here, he's got these Infernus. If I can find a way to mostly kill the blade guard, mostly kill everything up top here, which, I mean, their aggressors have 3 wounds each. They're all, you know, tough 6, 3 wounds. They're going to be in cover. They've got a lot of that stuff, and then he's got 5 jump pack intercessors, and I don't have much on this side, but we still have, I mean, we have our own jump pack intercessors. We have Stern Guard that could maybe take some shots at them, etc. And if we can tie these 2 squads up and kind of just like neutralize them for the most part, then Marneus can go over here and get on this objective, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. If the blade guard are mostly just gone and taken care of, then we can just go take this objective with Marneus and hold it, and eventually we can just burn it. This is his expansion objective. Like, this is exactly what we wanted. Having him poke his blade guard out here was really nice, and the aggressors showing themselves. I think he was trying to kill the Combi Lieutenant, like I said, but Combi Lieutenant got out of there, got out of dodge, and that's basically it, guys. So that's the end of his turn. Let's see, what were the secondaries? Yeah, okay, so behind enemy lines he couldn't get. He tried to find a pocket for it, but I had screened it out well. He got established locus, and I think that was why he poked his blade guard out. Even though he could have done it from the building, I think he initially thought he needed to be in there. I asked him if he wanted to go put his guys back in, and he said no, he was good. And I only got defense stronghold. I got bring it down, and I decided to get rid of overwhelming force as well. I apparently didn't score on that one. I couldn't remember. So one way or another, where neither of us are scoring our secondaries well here at all, and our primaries have been contained to just a 5. So, I mean, I somehow have the advantage on secondaries, even though I only got 9 after the first 2 turns. Pretty poor rolls for both of us, to be honest. So, okay, we already evaluated the situation. This is just another photo of the exact same thing as last time, just to kind of give you guys a glimpse of, I mean, right now it's our turn, it's go time. We've got to kill these Blade Guard, because the Blade Guard with the Judiciary, they get a strike first and everything. I decided to have the Jump Pack Intercessors come over here, and that way we can throw some grenades if we need to, and then we could charge and get impact mortals on the Blade Guard. Even though the Blade Guard will strike first with the Judiciary, the Jump Pack Intercessors do their impact mortals first. And so we could throw some grenades, we could do impact mortals and just make it tough for them to live, basically. And then we can have the Predator poke its head out and shoot at them as well. Or no, the Predator wants to shoot the aggressors is what he wants. The Predator wants to do, because he's AP2, even though some of them are in cover, he's still AP2 against infantry, and they flat 3 damage. Aggressors really hate Predators. And then of course this Predator can also shoot them, and the Ballistas can come out here, can come through into the building and just shoot out into the Blade Guard. The Marneus Squad can come and take out the Infernus, and that's basically all the things that happen. Oh, and I decided it's just time, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? So let's get Uriel's squad out here, and then we can have Uriel's squad actually threaten this objective here and shoot the heavy bolters on, because it's mastercrafted, it does 3 damage each. You can have it target the aggressors or target the Blade Guard, and it's still going to have some decent impact. So it's our go turn, guys. It's time to go. I did have the I decided to use the Stern Guard to land here as well, just to be able to shoot the aggressors. Now I was very careful, was very cautious to have have them stay out of the 12-inch bubble of flamer from the aggressors. So I think actually I did move my my combi lieutenant here just to see if I could get his overwatch from aggressors, and he did just kill the lieutenant. So good for the lieutenant, I guess. And here it was. So basically we had the Stern Guard came in, and they shot at let's see, I think so we put the First of the Moment on the with the First of the Moment on the aggressors. And between the 2 tanks, I think the 2 tanks killed the entire squad, and the Stern Guard actually didn't end up getting to do that much. I think maybe they finished off the Gravis Captain or something like that. You can see I had the Ballistas Dreadnought over here as well to shoot some stuff. And I mean, you can just really see that, like, Uriel's squad actually came up here, and after we killed the aggressors, I mean, just deleted them. Uriel got a decent charge roll. I think he needed like an 8, and charged into the Jump Pack Intercessors, killing the Jump Pack Intercessors, or just finishing them off. There weren't that many anyways. Down here you can see the Blade Guard all died. I moved Roboute out. I moved the Jump Pack Intercessors. They charged the Blade Guard, killed the Blade Guard did end up dying with, I think, the impact mortals, and maybe Roboute finished them off one way or another. We did kill them, and then the Jump Pack Intercessors were able to consolidate or whatever into the Eradicators, and the Eradicators they don't have pistols, or maybe they have like bolt pistols, but not good pistols. So the Eradicators wouldn't be able to shoot next turn. What I really didn't want were for the Eradicators to march their happy selves out here and shoot Marneus. That would be like their ideal target, just to kill Marneus, or not, sorry, Guilliman. And so and this picture is actually from the end of his turn. But one way or another, we killed all of the Blade Guard, we killed all of the aggressors, all of the Jump Pack Intercessors. We killed the Infernus on this objective, which wasn't that surprising. And I mean, It's just, and we tied up the ERAD so they couldn't do anything because they're in the building. They won't be able to see Roboute. They can't see anything other than, so they're gonna have to fall back. And the jump pack intercessors, of course, on his turn, kind of suffered a little bit. But I mean, we completely own this objective. There's nothing he can do to threaten it. I mean, he's got some Infernus Marines right here that I guess he could threaten this squad with, but at the end of the day, what my opponent ended up doing, he shot everything into Guilliman, hoping he could just kill Guilliman, and he did actually with his with 2 Plasma Inceptor squads. He did manage to kill Roboute. Roboute stood up though. He had 6 wounds left, so that was cool. And then all of his other shots, I think the Infernus rolled another like 28 or something crazy like that hits. On the jump intercessors, the eradicators actually got some decent melee hits on them and killed a couple in melee randomly. And so the jump intercessors almost all died, not quite. The Inceptors down here tried to do a little damage to Marneus and company, and at the end of the day, I think that's basically it, guys. We rolled for other missions and stuff, but I mean, once you lose that huge brick of Blade Guard, which are like 300 points, you lose the Aggressors, which are like 350 points, something like that. You lose the Jump Intercessors, which are another 90 points. I mean, just those alone, and then the Infernus down here, another 90. I mean, I killed like a third of his army in one turn and just kind of broke their back, and it's just super hard to come back from that, especially when you don't have like a fallback shoot charge strat like the ERADs kind of needed. The Inceptors just weren't quite enough. I mean, if they'd killed Roboute, I still think we would have had enough power to mess around here, but I mean, the middle zone, the middle of the you know, that would have been up for grabs kind of, but I think when we rolled it, I did have the Predators, I mean, we deleted that squad, and then I think this Predator actually moved out here so we could have the full length shot and killed these Inceptors. And I mean, even without Roboute doing his thing, my opponent didn't think that Roboute could kill all the ERADs, so we rolled it, and Roboute did in fact in melee kill all 6 of the ERADs, and they couldn't even overwatch because he just charged through the building that they couldn't see through. It was a pretty big rout. So that was that's basically it. Just, you know, make sure you have positioning, and then when it's time to go, you got to make sure you guys can in fact go. So at the end of turn 3, let's see, I still didn't score that well on secondaries. I got a secure no man's land, but again, I couldn't get behind enemy lines. My opponent did get extend and storm hostile, so he was actually made up some good ground on secondaries. We were pretty much tight on secondaries and primaries. It's 24-21, but pretty close game at the end of turn 3, though of course that kind of it kind of ignores the fact that I deleted most of his army on turn 3. So this is just another picture of what happened. Turn 4, I managed to kill all the Inceptors, and yeah, one of the Inceptor squads killed themselves, of course, and you know, I scored this objective, and we decided, I mean, at the end of the day, everything's gone. Like, the Marneus squad can actually come over here and mess with everything else over here, everywhere. And Roboute has already killed the ERADs. He could come in and just kill, like, take over the objective, kill the ballistas, kill whatever. Like, I had him on the ropes. So yeah, he didn't manage to score any more secondaries. I didn't even enter his secondaries for turn 5. For my turn, for turn 4, I got a 6. So my scouts were able to come in and get a full 6-point sabotage. I got an engage on all fronts. Assassination was going to be challenging because all he had was a tech marine that he was kind of hiding. So couldn't get assassination. Rolled that on the wrong time. And then let's see. I think maybe I have one more slide here. Yeah. So So then my final turn, I got area denial fairly easily, extend battle lines, and that was it, folks. So it started off very close. After we get the battle ready things, the battle ready points for having fully painted, ended up being 89 to 36. So even though I didn't roll great on the secondaries, we still managed to get an 89, and of course with Scorched Earth we could, on my turn 5, I was able to burn 2 objectives. I burned his home objective and his and one of those middle ones. So 89 to 36, good match to my opponent. Kind of feel bad about the final results. He was kind of feeling frustrated that, you know, he's like, well, I was just trying to take a fluffy Salamanders list, and I totally get that. Totally get that. Not, you know, I'm also just not going to apologize for trying to play a little bit competitively because we're at a tournament, you know? I think that the on-foot, Blade Guard, and aggressors are just going to struggle. Frankly, I think that that's just how it is. Having a big squad of, or having a huge amount of tough, resilient infantry are going to give some armies a lot of challenges, and other armies just not as much. I mean, he's got a ton of really resilient 3-wound models, but they're not that resilient against certain things. Like the Predators just kind of mop them up. So let's go to the AAR here. One sec. All right, here we are. So this game really highlights and accentuates why I love Predators. The Predators actually ended up being kind of the MVPs for most of the tournament. Just as I'll be putting out the other reports here very shortly as well. You guys can you know, you can count on it. But the Predators, I mean, they killed that Gladius, or the Gladiator Lancer, sorry. And that was awesome, being able to ignore cover and have an extra AP. That's one thing I neglected to say, is one of the Predators on my go turn also got the ignores cover and +1 AP, and so being able to ignore cover and +1 AP against those aggressors, like I think that one Predator killed like 5 aggressors on its own, which more than covers just that one Predator's point values. It's amazing. They killed the Lancer because they have the Lance cannons that ignore cover and are AP1. And without the moment, being able to wound on 2s is crazy. Just this was a really good showing for the Predators. And you know, the whole game they just killed everything. They just mowed things down. This game was really decided because he decided to expose his big troop squads, which I don't know what he's supposed to do, honestly, to get onto those objectives, because one way or another, I was in a striking distance to be able to mess with any of those objectives if he got onto them, and I wanted him to get onto the objectives, but if he didn't get on, then I had the presence to be able to just, I could burn the objectives, I could hold them and get higher points. Like, he needed to get onto them, and so when he did get on, I was able to then just pounce and take him out. The big blocks of infantry, if you let me both shoot and charge your stuff, a lot of times it's going to be something I can take pretty big advantage of. And you know, it's Firestorm. It's just not. It has a few good strats. It's just not as crazy strong as. I mean, this is why I play Gladius, right, guys? I have a ton of content for Firestorm, but for Firestorm, you basically have to play pretty passively. And if you play really aggressively, you just kind of get curb stomped. And this is kind of not to say that this was a curb stomping precisely, but I mean the score, I guess, was a little bit indicative of that. It just wasn't. It didn't really work out for him to play aggressively. So. Anyways, as far as the tournament goes, we're off to a decent start. The other people that won, there's actually a lot of really good players, including Colin K, who is like one of the top 10 ranked players in the country right now. He's won a ton of GTs. He's got a really scary bridgehead. Imperial Guard army. There's Andre, who's playing a really one of the new Imperial Guard armies. There's a couple of the Legion of Excess, Slanesh demon armies. There's my friend Andy is playing like a thing with stuff. He's playing Dark Angels with a ton of bikes, which are actually really scary. There's a ton of 4-wound bodies that are super resilient and tough to kill. So lots of really good teams still left in the running. Oh, there's also some really good orcs as well. Tactical Brigade. I think there's 3 different orc squad or orc lists out there, all doing really well. So lots of mess coming up. I did end up phasing one of the Legion of Excess opponents, and that's going to be my next battle report. So hang tight until then. As far as what my next events are, I will be attending, let's see, this will be released on the 8th of February, and then so that's like a Saturday, and the exactly 1 week after that I'll be playing in the Warhammer GT in Laramie. So we'll be probably, I think, in the same venue, just with way more people, hopefully. At least 20 people have signed up for the GT. So but then fast forwarding about a month later, we'll be doing a Fight Club RTT in Denver. I think there's also like a Laramie RTT before that as well. And then that all is practice for the it's not quite a super major, I guess. It's like 200 players though, just playing 6 rounds of the Rocky Mountain Open, which is a GT here in Denver as well in March. And then we have the Frontier Open that my face is blocking. Or the front, I think that's what it's called, the Frontier, yeah, Open in Cheyenne, and that'll be in late April. So lots of good stuff. We'll probably have some RTTs in the middle. Just lots and lots of events, folks. So I think that's it. I think we're gonna call it good here. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Keep it respectful, but let me know what your thoughts are of my opponent's list, of his play, of my play, etc. Any feedback is always welcome, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. And remember that in all things... Oh, wait. I've tried to do the sign-off for my other YouTube channel. Guys, remember that if you didn't hear it from me, it's probably heresy. We'll see you in a little bit, folks. Take care.